I'm not home right now. I'm walking through the sugar pants, so leave a message and I'll call you back. A likely story, but leave a message and I'll call you back. Today we're reaching deep into that sludge-filled barrel and pulling out something wet and throbbing. 1996's Repligator. A transsexual tale of tumultuous test subjects and the triumphant tatas that take shape. So let's send it down to Abraxas so he can fire up that sleaze docket and show what this one's got in store for us all.
We have 0 dead bodies, half a cup blood, half a cup drool, 16 naked breasts, sci-fi lab equipment porn, male fantasy mind reading, dollar store Lara Croft, laser disintegrators, whole movie is a flashback cliche, angry military colonel cliche, comic book inspired tech cliche, techno jargon babble cliche, ridiculous evil laugh cliche, human-sized access tunnel cliche, hi honey, I'm home cliche, gratuitous disintegrating reintegrating gator babes, gratuitous power failures, one giant mole, one jiggly spastic prostitute, one drooling moron, 2 gay zombies, 1 ill-fitting bra, sexy brainwashing, lingerie IT support, topless IT support, mole shaming, Macarena referencing, 5 2x4 head bonks, and sexy Gunnar Hansen.
Repligator is a very simple story. The government is working on some experiments and they don't go exactly as planned. We've seen this one many times before. However, this one isn't quite as evil as most of those stories go. Instead of creating some horrible monstrosity, these governmental scientists are accidentally creating hot, sexy, horny women who later become some horrible monstrosities. It's that whole second step that makes all the difference. We start with Dr. Goodbody interviewing a guinea pig soldier who doesn't hesitate to give the old elevator eyes. Subtle. The doc straps a mind-reading device to his head and finds out she was wearing a lot less clothing in the soldier's recollection of things. She turns up the juice and we dig into his fantasy home life.
Hi, darling. I'm so glad you're home. Normally I'd have dinner and a hot bath for you. This is a typical male fantasy. Let's go right to bed.
I mean, dinner and a bath sounds nice, but I'll take behind what's door number 2, please.
Men are such pigs.
Roll the opening credits, complete with a really awful CGI girl playing soldier. At first I felt like this might have been the studio's take on Lara Croft. However, this movie released 9 months before Tomb Raider first hit consoles that same year, so who knows? An angry Colonel Sanders, his actual name, barges into Dr. Kildare's lab carrying a newspaper with the headline, U.S. Army infiltrated by transsexuals. But we sidestep the plot entirely so we can do the dirty version of a gag we saw 11 years earlier in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. X-ray specs that really work. Hey, any flimsy excuse for more nudity is all right in my book. Anyway, long story short, Kildare gives Sanders a file and we flash back to the story of the Replicator project, specifically when General Mills shows up. So we have Colonel Sanders and General Mills. I'm actually going to be pretty pissed off if we don't also see Sergeant Pepper. Dr. Oliver and Dr. Hardy, get it, are explaining to Mills the basics of the experiment when they're joined by the rival douchebag, Dr. Fields.
Mole! Bloody mole! We're not supposed to talk about the bloody mole, but there's a bloody mole winking me in the face!
Alright, let's move this damn thing along, shall we? The short explanation is Dr. Oliver's machine has successfully disintegrated lab rats who are able to reintegrate in another room. Why they call this a replicator instead of a transporter, I don't fucking know. Best guess is we couldn't figure out how to make an alligator pun with transporter. They bring in a soldier and place him on the device to be the first human test subject, and he is promptly disintegrated. Once gone, the doctors fire up the secondary phase, and I'm pretty goddamn sure they stole the time bomb sound effects from Super Metroid.
If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, you'd have had to order me to believe it.
The other room opens and the soldier steps through, just a little more feminine than before. There's a lot of techno jargon used to explain why this happened. A bunch of stuff and nonsense about stretched DNA and whatever sounded good enough for a softcore skin flick. But the obvious failure panics the upper brass and they insist that Dr. Fields gets involved. And he takes this as an opportunity to fix his own failed experiments in brainwashing by combining his technology with the replicator, basically transporting fully reprogrammed soldiers. The test is to send the previously womanized soldier through a second time, but wacky shenanigans take place, and we also see Dr. Fields' assistant and Dr. Hardy accidentally go through the machine. This causes a system overload that locks down the facility, so now nobody's getting out until it gets fixed. The secondary room opens and Dr. Hardy walks through the fog wearing less clothing than she had before, and we've reached the she's all that portion of the film. Oh, kiss me beneath the milky twilight, lead me out on the moonlit floor. So let's review. The machine turns men into women, and it turns women into hot women. The magic of late night skin flicks, folks. Not only that, but Dr. Hardy is all hot to trot, too. Turns out Dr. Fields decided the first test for his brainwashing program should use his
Rampant nymphomania
protocol. Because of course he did. Next comes the soldier, and then Dr. Fields' assistant, Dr. West, and the lab turns into some high school makeout party. Dr. West confesses her love for Dr. Fields. The soldier takes Colonel Sargent into the other room for some alone time, and Dr. Oliver's newfound love slave is practically popping out of her underwear for him, so he commands her to fix the machine. How noble not to take advantage of the situation. A short time later, we hear a scream. Oliver and Fields go to check, and they find Colonel Sargent with a bloody throat and a giant lizard monster that used to be the soldier. The doctors run off and come up with the theory that passing through the machine stretches out the DNA, reverting her to a primal form because
she experienced a prehistoric orgasm which stretched her genetic code.
Honest to God, have never heard that exact phrase spoken in a movie before. So we skip ahead a bit, and the sexy, bouncy scientists have actually gone a long way towards fixing the whole situation, specifically making a gun-based version of the replicator, which is handy as the newly formed gator babe has reached the lab. As always in these films, the military has come back to do what the military always does: violent solutions. But unfortunately for them, the sexy lady's brainwashing has wore off, and they're none too happy about it. The rest of the movie is a mishmash of replication, spontaneous lizard transformations, convenient power failures, and violent abstinence. And it's here that we find out Oliver and Hardy are a married couple.
We've been married 25 years.
And I really gotta give this dude credit. He's pretty convincing in his dismissal of her advances. But thanks to frame-by-frame technology, we can clearly see him copping a feel when it was time to get physical.
That's assault, brother.
Oh, and did I forget to mention the gay zombies? Yeah, for whatever reason, anyone attacked by the gator babes becomes a mincing, sashaying, reanimated corpse. And in a movie full of ridiculous pseudo-science-y explanations, this one isn't even given a single thought. Just gator babe bite equals gay zombies. Okay, enough of this. Oliver figures out a solution to safely put everyone back to their original forms, even the gay zombies. But West doesn't want to go back to being a man. She refuses to help until Oliver promises once the lizard program is removed, he'll turn her back into a woman again. We get an action-packed conclusion with rapid-fire laser blasts. Everyone gets replicated through the fixing program. Fields gets turned into a woman against his wishes, and the facility explodes. Cut to Oliver meeting General Mills in a vacant park where Mills asks if he's ever found Dr. Hardy, as it's been 3 months since the incident. He says no, and the two go their separate ways. Oliver stops off at a house where Dr. West and Fields have been living, and he gives them both their much-desired gender swaps with his new and improved portable replicator gun. On to his next stop, where Dr. Hardy has been hiding. Apparently, she's all bummed out that she had to go back to her mousy, frumpy older self. But Oliver blasts her with the gun and then tosses out some new sexy underwear for her to be reintegrated into. Pretty damn good shot there, Doc. Damn good shot. Although I feel like they missed an opportunity for a hilarious visual gag. Imagine her reappearing with that lingerie on upside down or sideways or whatever. And we're back at Dr. Kildare's lab since that's the end of the official report. Turns out he's got his own version of the replicator gun and starts gender swapping everyone in the room. And the new ladies decide to go shopping, get pedicures, and party it up before working on a solution to reverse the process. The end. You know, for a late-night sex comedy, this one is definitely unique. Most seem to do their best at getting bikini girls for topless shenanigans. Beach parties, soapy car washes, snow bunnies with antifreeze in their veins. But you gotta admit, there aren't a lot of male soldiers get turned into nymphomaniac hotties who accidentally turn into lizard broads when they come movies. Though to be fair, I've never checked out the lineup over at HBO Max. And I really have to admit, I didn't think this one was all that bad. It was stupid. But they gave us what we came here for. Lots and lots of topless ladies. I expected it to be a cringy nightmare, but I actually laughed a couple of times at this one. Very silly and poorly acted, but it's just pure male fantasy. It's supposed to be lowbrow and shallow. It's not going to be like Bridgerton where, yeah, we're going to see them titties, but we're also going to talk a lot about stitching and embroidery. However, the one thing I think is quite interesting is how they handled the idea of transsexual attitudes. Sure, this one is full of a lot of misogyny and sexism. But they never really make fun of the people who seem to have a gender preference. In fact, the movie goes a little out of its way to make certain we know Dr. West's wishes.
Are you sure this is what you want?
Dr. Oliver, have you ever been alone?
Can't say as I have.
It's the most wonderful feeling in the world. It's like being home.
How amazingly progressive. No judgment, no crass jokes, just what do you want to be, and let's make it happen. For a 1996 movie, this one really surprised me. Especially since it started with an angry Colonel Sanders showing off the Fox News propaganda. I was really afraid this one was going to go the way of crass, middle school level jokes like we saw in Rock and Roll Frankenstein. I'm fairly positive this movie was a reaction to the United States don't ask, don't tell policy towards gays in the military that became official in 1993. But it was a nice surprise seeing a fairly mature take on transgenders, considering the movie's overall immature attitudes. So scrap another cinematic serving of slop, my silly sycophants, because it's time to say so long for now. And until I return with another repulsive reel, this is your jiggly jokester sugar pants. See you in your dreams.
If you don't do this, the next time you have sex, you'll turn into an alligator.